Rodham Clinton to the program. She is and will always remain the first woman in U.S. history to become the presidential nominee of a major political party. She is our 67th Secretary of State. Of course, she is our former First Lady. She's the author of a wonderful new book, What Happened, which I want to urge everyone in this audience to get. It is candid, it is engrossing, and it is no holds barred. Secretary Clinton, thank you for joining me. I very much appreciate it.
Oh, I'm happy to talk with you, Hugh. Thanks for having me on.
I want to start with a compliment on the book because it is so candid. And I regret, though, that your staff was very protective during the campaign. If you'd sat down with me, we would have talked about, the nuclear triad and the Columbia-class submarines. And we also have talked about Burma and the Rohingya and all sorts of things. But they kept you away from, the thoughtful people on the right. And they are legion. They sealed you off from it. And moreover, you write in What Happened that you tend to treat journalists with caution. I often feel they focus too much on the wrongdoing. But, Madam Secretary, when the first New York Times story came out about the server by Michael Schmidt and Matt Apuzzo, your team, according to Eric Wemple of the Washington Post, came to beatdowns with clubs. They really just shattered those guys' reputation, forced them backwards, and unapologetically so. Did they protect you too much, and did they hit back too hard at legitimate critics and questions?
Well, let me answer that this way, Hugh. I think, as I say about the book, I did think that I had to be careful in public, and probably I did have my guard up too much. Those days are over. I am trying to be as candid and open as I can be because I think there's a lot at stake. And if my voice can help us get our country back on track where we begin to have, reason-based discussions about our differences again and try to chart a path forward that actually makes sense and can be supported by facts, I want to be part of that debate. So I will take responsibility because clearly it is challenging when the press, and not just the press on the right, but the press in general, decide that, my emails are the most important story of the campaign. And that clearly was just pounded day after day after day. And I take responsibility for the mistake I made, but it was a pretty overblown scandal as far as scandals go. And then when there is a deliberate effort to, misinterpret facts, like the whole Uranium One charge, that is something that has been kept alive despite constant debunking. Similar to the tragedy in Benghazi, where, I testified at length. I answered every question. There was, I think, 8 or 9 investigations, more than half run by Republicans in the Congress, and they all came to the same conclusion that, I had not done anything wrong, and it was, not enough, and it became still a big political drum to beat against me. So I do have mixed feelings, I think it's fair to say, and I am going to try to, do more with people like you because I think it's important that we talk to each other. So, yes, I'm going to talk to people who I believe are interested in talking. Disagree with me, I disagree with them, whatever it might be. But if we don't start talking and listening to each other, I am really worried about what happens to our democracy.
I agree with that. On Benghazi, I have one question. On page 230, you write, the Republicans swung at me and missed at the 11-hour-long Benghazi hearing. That's true, by the way. Absolutely, 100% agree. My question is, do you regret leaving the State Department that night?
Oh, I was there until 9, 10 o'clock. We had done a number of what are called civets, satellite conferences. I had talked on the phone. I had talked over satellite with our team in Libya. I had talked with members of our government, defense and intel and others, obviously the White House. And, we knew that our goal was to find all of our people and get them out of there, and that was ongoing. And so I went home for a few hours of sleep. I talked to the president, bringing him totally up to date, and then obviously, headed back early the next morning.
But do you wish you'd stayed there all night? Do you think it would have been different had you stayed there?
I doubt it, Hugh. I doubt it, because that was never the principal charge that the Republicans and others made against me, and those in the administration. So I don't think that would have silenced the critics, because there seemed to be a calculation that this was an issue that they could make political.
And probably talk about around the Thanksgiving table tomorrow. Madam Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton, thank you for joining me. What Happened is a marvelous book, and I congratulate you on its success, and I hope that you'll come back and talk again in the future.
Here to comment on the news of the day, we're going to bring in Corey Lewandowski, former Trump campaign manager and spokesperson and senior advisor for America First Action. Corey, happy Thanksgiving. We appreciate you joining us this morning. I opened up my failing New York Times, of course, top right column. If you turn it to what the president calls the fake news network, CNN, right now, they're wall to wall on the fact that Michael Flynn has potentially cut off interaction with Trump, with the president's lawyers, which could be a signal that he's cooperating with prosecutors or negotiating a deal. Is the end nigh, Corey? Is the whole Russian collusion thing about to come crumbling down on Michael Flynn and this White House?
Well, as you guys know, this is a narrative that the mainstream media has wanted to perpetuate for the last year. And what the bottom line is if Michael Flynn did something wrong by not disclosing the relationships he had with Turkey and other governments, then he should be held accountable for that. Now, I don't think this goes anywhere other than to Michael Flynn and potentially his son. But what we've seen is the people who haven't followed the rules, people like Paul Manafort, Rick Gates, Mike Flynn, if they have done something wrong, they should be held accountable. But that's where it ends, because there is no culpability or liability to the president because he didn't collude, cooperate, or coordinate with Russia in any way, shape, or form.
Corey, let me push you just a little bit, though. This story won't go away. This news is significant insofar as it certainly suggests that a deal has been cut. It's going to be talked about, certainly, by those in the media that are not fans of the president. Does this create a new problem as the president tries to pull tax reform and other initiatives across the finish line before the end of the year?
Look, tax reform is the administration's priority right now, but let's be clear about this. The media wants to talk about what Mike Flynn did wrong, and if Mike Flynn did do something wrong, he should be held accountable. Look, Mike's not a bad guy. He served his country with distinction for a long time. But if he didn't fill out the paperwork properly, and he didn't disclose that information, and he wasn't honest with the FBI like anybody else, he should be held accountable. But that's where it stops. And there has never been any indication that the President of the United States or anyone else within that circle of the President of the United States has done anything wrong. And so if Mike Flynn did something wrong, he should be held accountable.
All right, Corey, shifting gears here, it is not just the day after Thanksgiving. It is Black Friday. There are a lot of people out there spending money. I'm sure we'll get the numbers on how the economy looks and how spending went today soon enough. But the big question, are you better off this year than you were last year? Senator Bernie Sanders does not think so. He had this Thanksgiving message. Take a listen.
I don't have to tell anybody that from a political point of view, this has been a horrendous year. It appears that almost every day there is something coming out of the White House that is embarrassing, that is destructive, that is horrific.
Corey, is it your sense that the senator's not feeling the burn anymore?
Well, look, the only people who are not better off today than they were a year ago is probably Bernie's wife, who's under investigation for this whole college fiasco up there in Vermont. We know that. But other than that, look, the American people, what we know is your 401k is higher today. $6 trillion in stock market value. The Dow Jones and the S&P 500 have hit records time and time again. Unemployment in this country is the lowest it's literally been in a lifetime. In 13 states, it's the lowest it's been since, the 1970s. So when you look at the metrics of what this president has done, he's putting people back to work. He's bringing manufacturing back. You look at any measure that is actually achievable, and this president is better. The people of the country are better off today than they were a year ago because of this administration.
Well, one issue this White House has taken on from the beginning, a very important and critical topic. Well, I don't mean to make light of it. We're making light of it this morning, but the president has emphasized we're going to call it's not the holidays, it's Merry Christmas, right? We're going to say Merry Christmas. We're not going to bow to political correctness. And I feel like part of that is probably a traditional Christmas tree, which we saw them put up. But there's a new fad, Corey. We got to get your insight on this. The upside down Christmas tree. You can buy it for a cool grand at Target. In this particular screenshot, I don't know if they're limited supply or what, or that special. The upside down Christmas tree, Corey. America's burning to know. What does Corey Lewandowski think of the implications of such a fad?
You know, I don't even know what it means to have an upside-down Christmas tree. It's like an upside-down world. It's like Seinfeld. It's like the Bizarro world. Like you can be a U.S. senator after groping people on a picture and no one has any accountability for it. That's what the upside-down Christmas tree means to me. I mean, it's everything that is wrong. Look, we have traditions in our country that many people respect, that we should respect, that we've passed on to our children. Look, a Christmas tree is one of those traditions. And if you don't want to participate in Christmas or Hanukkah, or whatever your holiday is, you don't have to. But I don't even know what an upside-down Christmas tree means.
That is a hardline stance, I think. Very strong.
That is true. Corey, can we put you on record that you will inform us immediately if you learn that the first family is turning their Christmas tree upside down?
I can be sure that the first family will not be turning their Christmas tree upside down. They love this country and our traditions.
I think the Russians might like upside-down Christmas trees. I'm just saying. I don't know. Maybe collusion? I'm not sure.
There's folks out there relieved it's not being called an upside-down holiday tree.
That's true. That's true.
Time to investigate. Thank you, Corey.
True.
Have a great Black Friday.
Thank
Rush
you
out
very
to
much.
Target and buy your upside-down Christmas tree.
Appreciate it.